If you're a Manchester United fan, is there much to get excited about right now? It would appear not. Out of the FA Cup at the weekend at the hands of Fulham, who won 4-3 on a penalty shootout. Of course, when you look at the Premier League table, incredibly, 14th place in the Premier League, 34 points separating Manchester United in 14th and Liverpool at the top. And they're going against Real Sociedad tomorrow night in the Europa League. That's all that is left for Manchester United. Of course, behind the scenes, stories of redundancies at the football club, as many as 500. So many of the fan base extremely unhappy about the direction in which the club is going. What direction is the club going in? Now, for that reason, it would appear many are going to protest this weekend. Manchester United host Arsenal this Sunday. The home support are being encouraged to wear black to represent how the club is, quotes, slowly dying. The 1958 protest group claim Manchester United are facing the worst crisis in almost 70 years. In a statement, they say this: the club is facing financial Armageddon. The debt is taking us on the road to ruin. Sir Matt Busby would be turning in his grave at the current plight of one of the world's greatest football institutions, which is being brought to its knees and in many ways becoming a laughingstock. Steve Crompton is spokesperson for the 1958 fan group. Steve, good morning. This is very strong language you use in your statement, Steve. Deliberately so.
Yeah, of course it is. I mean, the club itself, with the way things are operating since the Ineos got involved, is it makes people believe that what's happening is far worse than what we thought it was.
Yeah, but Steve, is it really as bad as you're making out? You say this is the biggest crisis United has faced since the Munich air disaster, which inspires our name. Really?
Well, yeah. I mean, the club itself are getting without staff. I understand that there was an overinflation in the amount of staff, but the mismanagement of the club now, it feels like we're just ground to a halt. That there's no money left in the pot. The club can't run. It's making huge losses, albeit turning over just shy of £700 million a year. So, it's not looking good. And, to top it off, the football we're watching is substandard as well.
I'm sure Simon will come in a second. Who's this all directed at then, Steve? Is it Sir Jim Ratcliffe? Is it the Glazers? Who is it?
Predominantly it's the Glazers. This is 20 years of mismanagement. I'm sure Jim had done his due diligence when they decided to take the partial ownership of the club. Was it as bad as he thought? Who knows? But it's an absolute mess, and I don't personally see a way out of it.
I mean, obviously, Steve, Simon and others are extremely serious about what they're going to do at the weekend. They're going to wear black to represent how the club is slowly dying.
Yes.
Sorry?
Bring out your dead, sackcloth and ashes. Listen, if you want to create attention, you resort to the hyperbolic, don't you? You make noises. I would imagine when they got relegated in 1974, it wasn't a particularly happy day, and Matt Busby was probably not very happy then either. The fact that the club has some debt, in proportion to what the club is worth, is relatively insignificant. The fact that they wanted Jim Ratcliffe in, and now they don't like him either, might tell you something. The team's performance is poor, and it's going through a difficult period. Is it an existential threat? Don't be childish. Of course it's not an existential threat. It's in no one's benefit, least of all the people that are making money from it, which are the Glazers, for it to go into an existential scenario. But they need to get a grip on it. The idea that Ratcliffe has gone in there and doesn't know what was involved with it, or doesn't know what was... He does know, that's why he's cleaning it up. He does know there was an immense amount of bad culture, bad habits, bad disciplines, and overinflation of staffing levels that are not required.
So this is all just one big clean-up process.
Well, I think
under Sir Jim.
I think there's an element of that. I mean, I don't think he's covered himself in glory with some of the decisions he's made, because ultimately keeping Ten Hag on, and not only keeping him on but giving him an extended contract, was nothing short of absurd. And then chasing after Dan Ashworth and finding out that he wasn't a fit doesn't look good. But the bottom line is he's going through the business, as he should do, and saying this business needs to streamline.
So you think Steve and the others here are wasting their time?
No, I think they're entitled to their opinion. Their football club means an immense amount to them. And football fans have every right to have an opinion. How they voice that opinion, I might differ. I might differ from the professional campaign of protesting that some activists want to exhibit. But the outcomes are that Manchester United are going through a very difficult period, specifically on the field. The off-field stuff is incidental. 99% of football fans haven't the faintest idea what it takes to run a football club and what actually goes on behind the scenes. The optics of what the media are playing out as hundreds of redundancies may well be simply because he's been over-fat in the calf. And I spent some time with David Gill about 6 months ago where he's talking about the one thing you can't argue about with the Glazers is the commerciality of the deal is brilliant for them, awful for football fans. But their commercial acumen in terms of being able to rinse every last commercial dime out of increased sponsorship revenues has been nothing short of remarkable. And some people would suggest that actually whatever they've cost in dividends and whatever they've cost in interest has actually been more than increased by the amount of commercial revenues they've got out of the deals that they've got from all the different sponsors and all the different collateral they've introduced.
What do you say to that, Steve? That Simon is saying on a commercial front, you're in a class of your own.
We were. I mean, we spearheaded commercialism.
We still are, giving you achievements. I mean, given the fact your team stinks, you still are achieving remarkable revenues.
But the facts is that the Glazers. I mean, you've owned a football club, Simon, yes. And I'm sure you invested money into that football club. And irrespective of how it ended, the Glazers haven't. And they've taken dividends out of the club to the tune of 170 million quid.
Agreed.
Of which that was happening when the club was still making a loss.
Agreed. But then take that up with the shareholders that sold them the shares in the first place and the manner in which they bought it.
But we can't do anything about that now,
sure,
can we? What
but
we
you're
can
asking
do...
the Glazers. There's no doubt, and you can't dispute this, that there's been an inordinate amount of money spent. Yes, there could have been more money spent. And given the way they run this football club, there could have been more money wasted. So the £1 billion that they've wasted or cost through interest payments and dividends would have been spent in a fashion which probably replicates the way they've spent it already. So you'd have £1 billion more spent with £1 billion more depreciation and £1 billion more crap on the field, because that's what you've bought over the last 10 or 12 years as the club has deteriorated from Ferguson and Gill going out the door and a new set of controls and mechanisms has been put in place. Do you disagree with that?
No, but what we're fighting for here, Simon, is fans.
I agree. I understand.
As a group, we've got over 80,000 subscribers, members to, and they're angry, and we can't just sit and hope and pray that everything turns out all right, because the way things are going at the minute, they're not turning out all right.
But what do you think the solution is, though? You aren't going to get these guys out. Nothing you say and nothing you do will get them out until someone comes along and wants to buy them out for the money, kind of money they want. Jim Ratcliffe's come in the door. You wanted him, right? Ratcliffe's in the door, and there's a section of your fan base that doesn't like him much either now. What is it you want? You want a Middle Eastern ownership to come in and just splash the cash. Is that what you'd prefer? So you lose all your heritage and all your value, and you become an agenda for someone else's outcomes?
Absolutely not, Simon. I mean, you've mentioned it twice that we advocated for Ineos and Radcliffe, which we didn't. We advocated for a full sale of the Glazers shares. That's always been the case.
Sure.
A full sale of the Glazers shares. We want them gone. They're not. There are rules in place now in the Premier League that stops buying football clubs the way the Glazers bought United. So something somewhere's wrong.
No, that's not quite right. There's a ratio. And United would still qualify for it because United's value is about 5 billion quid. And the debt that was, hang on, Jim, the debt that was required to buy it was 10%. So you could still buy United this way through a mechanism because there's a ratio that allows you to do it.
Okay, but then, flipping back to who we represent, which is our fan base, and, we feel and our fans feel that with price increases that are imminent, and our ticket prices are going up. We've seen other clubs freeze the prices, Liverpool, West Ham, to name a couple. But, it feels to us like we're being, we're at the end of it. And, we're the people that go to the ground and support the club and make it everything that it is inside Old Trafford. But then they're coming at us for price increases. What they are, we don't know yet. So...
Yeah. Well, you're serious about your protest to finish on this weekend, Steve. Of that, there is no doubt. Having said that, I think it's the language you use in the statement that has riled many this morning. Now, you don't get away with anything in this show, Steve, as you probably know. And in your statement, you said, in many ways, this is the biggest crisis United has faced since the Munich air disaster, which inspires our name. I'm looking at a lot of messages. I'll select one. That's quite disgusting from Steve Crompton's fan group to say that. A club in debt and not winning trophies is not akin to life being lost. Do you see where that's going?
Yeah, appreciated. But you know, we put a statement out, and perhaps that wasn't worded as it could have been worded better. We'll put it that way. So yes to that one.
Okay, Steve. Listen, thank you for your time. It's not the first time you've joined us. I'm sure it won't be the last. Steve Crompton, spokesperson for the 1958 Manchester United fan group, who will have a sizable protest this weekend as Manchester United host Arsenal on Sunday.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.